I'll ask anybody's question but yours. You're an idiot. And really a disloyal person.
Welcome, everyone, to the Disloyal Idiots podcast, where we all attend the Church of Tejon Buchanan. I'm Krishna Guzman. Steve Handler and Andy Pregler are joining us as we begin football season in more ways than one.
Yeah, we're back. We are actually officially back from an SU soccer standpoint as well. So I think, what did they hosted UConn last week?
When they were desperately not back.
Yeah, I think they played Lafayette, Lemoyne. They played an L school today.
They played Loyola. Today.
Loyola, and they won 1-0. I watched a little bit of that at a party hosted by former Nunes Magician contributor Sean Farrell. So we're just really getting into the Syracuse spirit here. As I forgot to wear the football shirt and I went with the basketball shirt anyways. But, this is the last time that you'll see me talk about basketball in any sort of intelligent manner, as we now have the good stuff. It's wild to me. I got reminded of this. I'm flying to Atlanta in 4 days to watch Syracuse football play a game. And I cannot believe that we figured out who the quarterback was on Friday.
We indeed did. Yeah, I think a lot of people were under the assumption that Fran would play the college game of, hey, we're going to do the or that the Indianapolis Colts did with Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson at the beginning of preseason. But also the Colts also chose a starting quarterback. So what do we know? And the starting quarterback has been chosen for Syracuse. It is going to be Steve Angeli, who is the starter, and that was announced on Monday morning. It was reported, and I think Fran said this in an interview on the Syracuse Athletics YouTube page, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, or I'm not sure if I'm right or wrong. That Fran had been said on record that he was going to choose his starter after their second scrimmage.
He did. Yep.
And
yes.
And he held true to his word. After the second scrimmage inside the JMA Wireless Dome, it was announced that Steve Angeli would be the starter for the Syracuse Orange. Now, there are a lot of pros and cons to both decisions, whether it was going to be Angeli and Ricky Collins. If you go back to our podcast a couple weeks ago, you'll have a good idea of what we said about each quarterback and what each quarterback brought to Syracuse. In press conferences, what it sounded like is Fran obviously values leadership in his quarterback position a lot. And if skill isn't enough to differentiate the quarterback position enough, the leadership aspect would be the trump card that would push one man over another. And the ability for Angeli to develop personal relationships consistently and keep personal relationship connections at the top of his priority list, and is something that I think Fran not only wanted, but it's something I think Fran sees in himself and wants to emulate and have consistent message throughout his entire program, which is probably one of the reasons why he lent Angeli more than Collins.
Yeah, I think the other aspect of this is that we are quickly realizing the type of quarterback that both Jeff Nixon and Fran Brown like. I did a deep dive on my Substack about Joey Aguilar winning the Tennessee starting job and Steve Angeli winning the Syracuse job, and how both of those quarterbacks are pretty much the typecast out of central casting for both coaches in terms of what they're looking for in quarterbacks. And if you look at Angeli's entire career going all the way back to high school, he and Kyle McCord have some just aggressive similarities, even down to like them being the same listed height and weight coming out of high school, playing almost the same number of snaps between their freshman and sophomore seasons before they were given the starting reins. McCord's first full starting season was at Ohio State, obviously, and Angeli's will be at Syracuse. And so it just really, the scouting report on Angeli is that he is a tremendous athlete who is a bit of a statue in the pocket, but has a ton of natural athleticism and is remarkably consistent and on time with his mechanics and with his throws and his reads. And if I recall correctly, I believe it was Fran Brown who said, we think we can unlock a new level of Kyle McCord's game if we can get him moving within the system the right way. And I think you saw that when given the opportunity, kind of Christian, to your point about what are the things that Fran is looking for, what are the things that Jeff Nixon is looking for in a quarterback, I think that they would much rather have a quarterback who can read the defense, make the right read, be on time, be consistent with all of the things that actually go into being a quarterback. And they'll develop the mobility. They will develop the confidence to move the pocket horizontally, rather than going with a quarterback that's more comfortable with that latter game and needing to develop that consistency in the field. I think they'd much rather develop that consistency in practice and out of the game environment. And we're seeing, again, I'm not saying Angeli is going to be McCord 2.0. I think that is literally the gold mine that will be probably one of the best transfer stories ever, period. But I think that when you look at Angeli, you go, yeah, there's a lot of Kyle McCord archetypes in here. He just, instead of being the superstar version, he's probably, to use the college football video game terminology, he's probably more of the impact version rather than the star version.
Yeah, and we're going to, and I'm sure we'll touch on it later, but with the changes that have been made along the offensive line, it also allows us to take someone like Angeli and that may not have the exact poise that McCord did, or may not have the experience that McCord did, and give him a little bit more leeway. Because if we can keep him upright in the pocket more, that's going to help his game, his confidence, everything Syracuse is doing. That said, on the flip side, Ricky Collins has been interviewed since by Syracuse.com, and he seems to be saying all the right things and not, I'm sure he's disappointed, but not utterly, in the trash can over losing the battle. He came out and said, this is the first time I'm getting reps as the actual number 2, and that, that wasn't where he was going to be or where he was at LSU. So I think we may have a quarterback room that is, all kind of in lockstep, which I'm not going to complain about in any way, shape, or form, because we've really needed that ability to have stability coming into a season.
And especially with Garrett Nussmeier getting the number 18 at LSU, there was definitely almost a 0% chance that Collins was going to get any meaningful snaps this year as well at LSU. And that could, and again, like I think what a lot of people are assuming, Collins will, from what we could tell, might get a fair share of opportunities as maybe a spark plug change if necessary. And we brought this up, I think, last week. This could easily turn into a 2018 Eric Dungy, Tommy DeVito situation, where if needed, there's a capable backup who plays a much different style that could come in, if necessary, to spark the offense and confuse the opposing defense.
Yeah, and I think that this is, one of the things that we've been very lucky with last season was McCord's health. And even in other 10-win seasons, like you're alluding to, Christian, we did not have perfect quarterback health the entire year. Like, this is a physical sport. We're anticipating there to be some struggles along the offensive line, and struggles along the offensive line usually means struggles for your quarterback in various ways. That's just the nature of the sport. And so I do think, so I do think that that Ricky Collins is going to get some run here. One of the other things that I think is really kind of interesting in this entire process is that in that article that Steve was mentioning where Ricky Collins was interviewed and saying all the right things, Fran and Ricky made it real clear that Miles White has really been integral into this quarterback competition, which I thought was really interesting. He's the passing game coordinator under Jeff Nixon. He's only 35 years old. If the name is familiar, it's because he was formerly in the NFL for a few seasons. He played with the Packers, the Jets, and Giants, Bucks before going to the CFL. But he is somebody that Nixon knows from that time in New York, and seems to be yet another young coach on the rise in the Fran uh, army that he has built up of young coaches on the rise. Like,
Yeah.
one of the things that I've been very surprised about, and again, I think this is just coming from the coaches that we've had in the past, the openness to talk about assistant coaches and their roles, to specifically call out in the media what these assistant coaches are doing. But I do think that that's kind of interesting to hear because, if only from the perspective of, we knew that Angeli was coming in because of a connection on the coaching staff. Nunzio was his high school coach. There was always going to be a level there, but it was really good for me to at least see that this was not a situation where Fran got panicked and brought in somebody that they just knew from another location. And there was, I'm not going to say an objective third party here, but there was at least a third party coach that was kind of running this whole thing, saying, like, look, there was never an anointed quarterback coming in, even if, any quarterback. I think at this point, if you look at the transfer portal across college football, I think almost every quarterback who was brought in during the spring window, as opposed to the fall window, has been named the starter in their respective open competitions.
So I'll make a couple of
Editor's notes.
Editor's notes there. One, Nunzio Campanelli was not Angeli's high school coach. That was his brother Vito.
As well as his father.
Yes.
Mike.
But again, you could imagine same difference. It's not
Yeah.
very hard to call your brother and be, hey, you coach this guy. How is
Right.
he? And obviously Nunzio has a lot of ties to Broken Catholic just in general, so you can imagine that he knows Angeli pretty well, and he admitted that as much. Nunzio said he's known Angeli since she was a teenager. Something else I will say is that while Miles White is the passing game coordinator, from what we've been told from other coaches, especially Michael Johnson, from what we were told, the quarterback decision was mainly between Nunzio, Jeff Nixon, and Fran Brown. Those were the main guys who were going to make the decision. Obviously, you could expect the other coaches would probably weigh in, but those three, from what I could understand, held the most weight in terms of who was going to be the starting quarterback. But on your topic of Miles White, I mean, we got a chance to talk with him as well. It just feels like he's another guy who, ironically, fits into the same mold of the coach that he replaced in Ross Douglas. And it just feels like the tenor that he brings to the wide receiver room and subsequently the passing game, it feels like you're going to have wide receivers who hold White eventually in the same reverence that many of the wide receivers held Ross Douglas in last year, which is a big part of the reason why Douglas got the huge pay raise that he got to go to Oregon. So I can imagine that when you have a guy like White, who not only brings that NFL experience, but also the personality that he brings, it feels like you have a guy who is going to, like Andy said, really also apply connections as a big part of the success of the team. And I think that was just based on the interviews session that we got with him. That feels like another one of those home run hires by Fran, who continues to hit it out of the park with most of his hires on his assistant staff.
Yeah, I don't know how he's continuing to do that, but I'm not going to complain.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, at the end of the day, it's kind of one of those things that we talked about when Fran got hired. He's just part of a new wave of coaching that is a combination of being more connected than ever because of just the era that they came up in, but also being a guy who has, been at so many places and been so connected, and obviously has this fraternity of young coaches that have not really gotten big shots for one reason or another. And he's giving them the opportunity to take that shot at Syracuse and continually fueling this ethos of, you can come here, have a role. We will happily springboard you and do that enough, and then you know, there's always a joke. One of my favorite jokes from the Split Zone Duo college football podcast was when they called Alabama the Nick Saban finishing school for wayward coaches, and it really was getting to a point where even Doug Marrone went and rehabbed his entire coaching, resume by spending 2 years under Nick Saban and then going back to the NFL and becoming an offensive guy back in the league after the failed Buffalo Bills experience. It's just like one of those things, though, that you need that momentum and you need that cyclical nature of it in order to work. And that cyclical nature only happens if guys leave for better jobs. One of the other quick questions that before we kind of move off of this quarterback conversation, obviously Angeli is saying all the right things. He's obviously, Christian, you mentioned the leadership capabilities that he has been very open about learning and getting from his time at Notre Dame. And obviously we saw that he's able to handle pressure fairly well in that college football playoff game. I think one of the big questions that I do have with Angeli right now, and I'm hoping you can kind of shed some light here, we've talked previously about the lack of top end playmakers in this receiving room and in this tight end room. It's just there's a lot of depth, but there's maybe not that like one guy. And I do wonder, again, I don't know if we've been able to see a whole lot just because of what the media has been into. I feel as if for Angeli to be successful, there's going to be a lot more scheming guys open than we saw last year, where there was a lot of clearly Kyle McCord, I'm going to go find a Rondé down there, or I know Pena and I are going to run just like this little rub play that we've been working on individually. I don't know if there's that level of connection right now between Angeli and a specific receiver to run that this year. And if there is, I'm curious if you have any insight as to if Angeli has picked out a favorite to kind of lean on in the way that McCord leaned on Pena last season.
I can name 3. 2 are returning, 1 is new. The 2 returners are Daryl Gill and Justice Ross Simmons. Both of them have had fantastic camps. It'll be interesting to see how they split time as well, because just based on what we know, I'm not sure how much they'll see the field at the same time. But it would be a disservice if one of them didn't get enough playing time. Just because of how packed it is right now.
Inherently, wouldn't you put one at the X, one at the Z?
Well, yeah, but I'm not sure because what we're seeing is that one of those X spots might be taken by Jonte Cook, and holy moly,
well,
he is good.
That's all signs and everything I've heard at all from anyone that's seen camp is that he is living up to the hype of his recruitment.
Yes, exactly. And clearly, Andy, I'm not sure if you haven't seen my clip that I posted on Monday of Jonte in practice.
That was a thing of beauty.
Yeah. So after the pod, we will show you that because it is one of the most beautiful catches I've seen just in a practice session. Yes, is it against a defender? No, but it's a fantastic catch nonetheless. And to say that you don't have a superstar player like Rondé, of course, in the tight end room you don't, because Dan Villari is not going to be a Rondé Gadsden. I think everyone can say that. It's going to be hard for Laurie to match that status that Rondé has. But on the outside, on the receiver side, it just feels like a lot of people gravitate towards Jonte in the same way that they're gravitating towards Angeli. There is a leadership that's still growing with Jonte, but everyone compliments him on his explosiveness. And it just feels like he can be that guy that can be consistently be counted on to be an explosive play guy.
Now, do you think there's a chance we see him in the slot?
Yeah. If I'm making my ideal Syracuse receiving lineup, it'd be Gillen and Ross Simmons as your outside receivers, and then Cook in the slot. But obviously, I'm not a coach on the Syracuse staff.
At the same time, Fran seems to be a guy who's very pragmatic about who he puts out there. Like, if it makes sense that these are the best players to put in these positions, like I feel like that's probably who's going to end up there.
Yeah, if I would, if I mean, again, that's what if I'm coaching. Obviously, I'm
Yeah.
not, but if I'm coaching, that's what I would do. I would make Gill and Ross Simmons your outsides, and Jonte your slot guy, and just
Right.
run 11 personnel to the moon.
Right. And that
Because
behind them too, you've got Emmanuel Ross and Hornsby that have both been like making a name for themselves as well. So
yeah, definitely Hornsby a bit more. Tyshawn
Right.
Russell hasn't been bad either. The South Carolina transfer.
Yep.
But what I will say is that there is a bit of a drop off from Gill, Ross, Simmons, and Cook to the
Yeah.
rest of the wide receivers, just based on what I've seen in camp and practice. Those three are just a step ahead from what I can tell. Especially Gill. I think Gill has had just a phenomenal camp, and I
Yes.
think he's going to surprise people who don't know already. Like the three
Who
of us
didn't
know
watch
what
the
Daryl
UConn
Gill
game last year.
exactly. The three of us know what Daryl Gill can do.
Right.
I think he's going to surprise a lot of people who don't know what he can do.
Yeah, I love that just because I think towards the end of last season, especially, we saw flashes of each one of these returning wide receivers like have a game where it felt like, oh man, this is about, to use our favorite football coach expression, felt like it was about to be a snowball that catches fire. And it really, I had to traumatize Steve with that one. Oh, you watched the live stream just to watch Steve's reaction to me bringing up Greg Robinson.
Hey, I'm the only one here who lived through that. All right. They're
But
still scarred.
I know they never heal. No, but I think that one of the things that I'm looking forward to this year is just I would like to see some more high end consistency from some of these players. Like, Ross Simmons was somebody who, when he was originally brought in as a transfer, we all saw the potential immediately. Like, here is a guy who has performed at a high level at, a quote unquote smaller school, but has all the hallmarks and all the physicality that you need to perform at, the Power Four level. I think Gill is another one where this guy has just been in this program. He's got everything you want physically. It's just a matter of getting the opportunities and being consistent with those opportunities. So as you're saying these things, Christian, I'm excited, if only because I do think it's really important that even though Fran and the football team continues to develop these players that go to the NFL, I think it's really important to also take a transfer from a Colorado State or from a smaller school and say, look, you might not get drafted in one of the 7 rounds, but we're turning you into somebody who's going to be a really solid contributor to a practice squad or to a CFL roster or to an XFL roster. Like, there's multiple paths here where you can grow your game, and you have that ability at Syracuse to do so. We're not just churning out top end NFL talent and then filling out the rest of the roster with, move the chains kind of players. Like, this entire roster needs to be deep and developing constantly. And I think that this is a great year for a lot of those guys to maybe take steps forward and be hallmarks of the roster. Like, I think one of my biggest critiques of Dino, and one of the biggest things that always frustrates me as a Syracuse fan, and you look at our schedule, it's a great example of this. Like, man, it always feels like Duke or NC State or some of these like middling ACC schools, they just have guys. Like, none of them are like, oh my gosh, they're going to the NFL guys, but they're all really good Power 4 players who can contribute at a high level, give you 800 yards receiving or rushing, give you 2,900 passing yards and plenty of touchdowns and only a handful of interceptions. And it feels like we've always just been boom or bust. We either have guys that do great or we have guys that do absolutely nothing. And I feel like just raising that floor and getting more of that middle ground is a massive step for this program, because we really have not had that in such a long time.
See NC State Casey Concepcion, who was obviously not transferred over, and might actually get that NFL shot. But yes, what I will say also about Ross Simmons is, don't forget last year he was injured for like half the year, and so
Yeah.
I doubt he was at 100% at all throughout the entirety of last year, it I've talked to him in training camp. He's 100%. So, yeah, I think we're going to get all of Justice Ross Simmons this year.
Massive. I think one of the other areas that we just need to call out as we talk about the offense is obviously the offensive line. Two reasons. One, Steve's here. Two, two. When you look at Tennessee, I think based off of all of the college football preview content that I've consumed, the beat on Tennessee seems to be everybody thinks that they could be the overrated SEC team this year. Yay, love that. The problem is that for us, the one area that Tennessee is unanimously strong, still at a playoff contender, is their front seven, specifically their defensive line, which is not what you want to see in week one, to be completely honest. But it feels like sometimes you just got to rip the Band-Aid off. And this is probably going to be the best defensive line that Syracuse plays all season. Yes, I know we play Clemson later on the road. I think that Tennessee's defensive front is probably better than Clemson's by at least a solid grade. And I'm curious, as we go through here, Christian, I've not seen a ton of injury news related to the offensive line, which again feels
Don't
weird.
Talk about it, Andy.
Knocking on my wood right here.
Man, come on, pull it together.
But also,
simultaneously knocked on wood.
Yeah. But also, just kind of on that front, last show we talked about what we thought the starting five would be. Has there been any indications or any major vibe checks to say that starting five is now shifted in a way that we did not expect coming, as 2 weeks ago?
I'll admit I haven't been paying attention as much to that. I think from what I could tell, maybe Cam Pringle gets up in there and into that starting five. And I know that's something that Steve has talked about as well. I would agree with that. I think Cam Pringle could make a leap up at some point. Luckily, we should know more tomorrow when the depth chart would come out.
Sure, we'll know something.
Well, hey, it will be something.
Fran has been better.
Yes.
Than anyone could be better than Dino at it. So
the real fun thing also is that we'll get availability reports also on, I believe, Wednesday.
Yeah, absolutely.
And from what it looked like, the Big 12 was going through the NFL model of out, questionable, doubtful. So from what it sounds like, we'll get something similar for this kickoff game.
That'd be nice. So, Andy, to answer your question, Javon Edmonds at Syracuse.com pieced together what he thought was the two deep, basically. And it jives a decent bit with what Christian was thinking. One thing that I think we missed, or we touched on last week, was Nikhil Bertrand. And it looks to be he might be starting at left tackle with Trevian Mack backing him up.
Yes.
And then Ferguson at left guard, like we talked, Florida State transfer, Louisville transfer, Austin Collins. Mm-hmm. See, the brain works sometimes. Basically, the only penned-in person on the line at center. Right guard, Zach Rice. Right tackle, Cam Pringle, is what he's thinking across the front five. Cam Pringle behind Weatherspoon, should I say, but kind of fighting for that spot. And then backup guards, Joe Cruz and Byron Washington, who Christian was saying was impressing during camp. And then Josh Miller, the former Georgia transfer that was playing guard, I guess is the backup center now.
That would make sense as well, yeah. Because, I mean, from what I know, I think Zach Rice can also play a bit of center. But nice. it might be it might behoove Syracuse to move him towards a guard position where he may be a bit more useful.
Yeah. So that's a lot of big boys.
I mean, that's what I was gonna say. Like, in general, I feel like this is probably the biggest line that we have had. At least, I don't have the historical depth charts to pull up from the Marone era, but
Steve does.
Not yet.
I do.
And I
Well,
bet
there we
you
go.
he has heights and weights.
I might. I don't know about that.
Well, well, it's just this is something I was talking about with one of my Syracuse football friends about. There was that very long period of time with Dino where we essentially completely shifted our entire philosophy around recruitment. That drastically impacts the room that you're working with, and we saw a little bit of that last year where there were still times that the line, even though it was effective, was not necessarily as big as you would expect. And one of the first things that I noticed, the guys that we're bringing in are just massive. I think specifically when you're talking about the freshman from Texas, I believe that's Washington.
Yep, Byron Washington, backup right guard.
I saw something that somebody sent me where basically if you compare the weight that was reported in high school to the weight that people are talking about now and that Syracuse is putting out there in certain articles, it looks like he's dropped about 30 pounds, but he's still insanely large. So I think that to me is gonna just be the interesting part is like where are we looking at for an ideal size of our offensive line? Are we just gonna take the biggest guys that we can get and slim them down and go from there, or is it again, I think that part of what makes Nixon's system so great is that we're really not asking we're asking the offensive line to do a lot, but the ball is moving pretty quickly, and when the ball is not moving out there quickly, it is not just a standard 7-step drop and stand back there like a statue. There's usually some pre-snap motions, or at least it's done in a way that doesn't require the offensive line to, hold to the best of their abilities and nothing else.
As long as it's not Matt Canada motion, I'm all for it. And Andy knows all about that.
Oh,
Those are my scars now. now we're just getting real mean.
Can I pick up the Jets defense specifically because they're going against the Steelers week 1? Yes.
I'm so happy to not pay attention to the NFL this season. My team is going to be so bad. Sorry, Steve. Anyways, talk about our big beefy boys and their weights.
I wish Syracuse would release weights.
Yeah, they have. They've updated it on Qs.com.
No, they haven't. I'm looking at it right now. There's no weights.
I mean, it was there when I last checked.
Huh.
Because I know this was a thing early on in training camp where.
Oh, you know what? So I always look at things on the condensed. Looks like a spreadsheet view. They do have them listed on the
Yes.
persons.
Yes.
So
Now Steve can look at weights.
let me look at weights.
I mean, the best part is that you can sort by weights.
Really?
Yeah, there's an option.
Oh boy.
And he's going to scroll down to the bottom.
That's the wrong way by weight.
Yeah.
That's a little guy.
But he's going to scroll down to the bottom and see that Byron Washington's official weighted pounds is still at 400.
400 pounds.
Which, to be fair, I think that there was one report coming into his senior year that listed him at 430.
Yeah.
So, again, high school weights and whatnot, but that's 30 pounds.
A little baby fat.
Because he's 18.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Well, one thing we should talk about before we get to big men weights is that, remember, there is a 17-year-old who's starting.
Yes, there is.
And probably going to play both sides of the ball.
I was going to say, have you seen him at all at wideout?
I'm a bit. Still raw, but you can tell that the coaches like his potential there, which is why he's also playing there.
For anyone who doesn't know who we're talking about, that is Demetrius Samuel, who will be our starting cornerback, and pulling his best, Cordell Stewart / impression of playing all over the place.
Yeah,
actually, in Syracuse terms, it would be the Joe Fields going from quarterback to safety.
I thought you were going to say Chris Elmore.
Oh, true. There you go.
No one can replace Chris Elmore in our hearts or with his multiple positionality.
Apparently, Frank's trying that with his son, because Franny Brown is now a fullback
and a long snapper.
I kind of love all of this. Not gonna lie.
So back to weights for a second. Byron Washington's listed at 400. Andy, tell me, what is the next highest weight on the roster?
I knew that was the next
I-
question.
It's got to be something ridiculous like 330 or something. Like there's got to be a massive drop in there.
It's almost spot on.
Very,
Cam
very
Pringle
close.
at 335.
Yeah, like I mean this. This is why to me, and again, Steve, you can I'm going to give you the opening to get really intricate with offensive line talk before we move on to the defense.
Do we want to scare all of our listeners off?
No, but it's just like you cannot play at that size. Like there's a mobility, there's a footwork, there's like you got to be able to move. But the fact that what I'm optimistic about is that the fact that he was getting reps with the ones, the fact that he is in the 2 deep right now, or the projected 2 deep, even at this size, like there is a diamond in there that we have to chisel. We have to, no pun intended, but there's some chiseling that has to be done to get to that diamond. But it appears that this is not just, oh, we found a big old Texas boy and we're going to teach him how to play the line. This guy knows how to play line. He's just massive.
Right. So that is 100% true, Andy. And people that some people may not. Well, if you've never thought of the intricacies of the offensive line, which is 90% of anybody, 90% might be a little low. Let's go
Yeah, I
like
was gonna say.
96% of people.
And that might still be low.
Fair enough. So I'm glad we broke Andy there, but
My dog broke me, but yeah, continue.
yeah, when I was playing, I at one point bulked up to 315 as a playing weight, and that was my sophomore year of college, and I could not move. I ended up losing my spot because there was no mobility. Like I was kind of the 6th man on the line, and I ended up getting bumped, slightly because I couldn't move, and I ended up my next year's playing at like 280, 285 ish, which you wouldn't think that 20 pounds makes a big difference, but it really does. Well, 30 pounds, I guess. But yeah, for someone like Washington, the more weight he drops, the better. Like he seems to have some of the intangibles and some of the things you want to see when you first look at somebody on film. And if you can, I guess like you said, chisel that sculpture out of clay, literally almost in this case, we can probably make something out of it. Get him down in the 360 ish. Like there's got to be a lot of muscle under there to be, carrying 400 pounds around. So there's promise. And if he's hitting with the ones, then we're onto something.
Well, remember, Fran had mandated to everyone that they had to lose or gain a certain amount of weight during camp. So, like, that's something that every player is working on. And obviously with a nutritional staff and also the new Langley complex, that helps a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, the rest of the unit is somewhere between like 310 and 335, which those are all massive human beings.
No, you don't say.
It's going to be nice to see, because I do think one of the things that we can get to see when you have a big beefy offensive line that can move, I do think it opens up more options in the running game as well. Obviously, we saw last year the running game was still pretty effective, but there was a lot of contact. Yassine Willis is not a scat back by any stretch of the imagination. He seems to be someone who's comfortable with contact. But as we talk about, this offensive line getting bigger, it does, to me, hopefully open up the door for more complex running game and a more effective running game. I know that Nixon last year with McCord was not afraid to throw the ball a lot more than he ran the ball. But I think this year we might see some balance if that offensive line stays healthy and is able to move laterally and pull in different ways that I'm getting PTSD flashbacks to some of those multiple offensive line coaches that we ran through and switching the running scheme up, every 6 games. I would.
As long as it's not just constant A gap rushes, I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah,
There's a lot of things that can make me not okay, but yeah, it'd be a good start. Let's put it that way, Christian.
So last, we've talked for about 40 minutes about all the things that the Syracuse offense are doing going into this game.
And that's good timing by
as-
our standards.
Yeah.
I know, right? But as Christian as Christian mentioned, we get a depth chart tomorrow. We're recording Sunday night. Monday the depth chart comes out. Friday the team flies down to Atlanta, and Saturday they play the University of Tennessee in the first football game of the season. I know all of us are not huge into the projections and the predictions market just because anything can change here. None of us thought Syracuse was winning 10 games last year, and lo and behold, they did it. But before we talk about the Tennessee game, I think all of us are aligned. The wins don't matter as much as progress this season matters because of the schedule. But for each of you, and Steve, we can start with you. Like, what is the progress that you're looking for with this team this season? Whether it's on the field, off the field, like I think that there's a lot of different ways that all three of us are looking at this program and saying it's okay that they don't win 9-10 games this year, but there are things that we're going to be watching and hoping to see improve.
I think it's going to sound weird. It may not actually be a word, but replicatability.
Okay.
We're going to go with it. But
yeah, I like it.
That last year wasn't just a complete lightning in a bottle, and that we can utilize this system that Nixon and Brown are working within on the offense to try and, is Christian writing down replicatability now?
Yes.
Like to try and see if we can build off of this. When you have success like that, you wonder if it's a one-shot thing. You wonder if it's they found something that people haven't latched onto, or after a year of film on Fran and Nixon, what people are going to scheme defensively against them. So if we can plug and play a very different team and not a quarterback the caliber of McCord, no offense to Angeli, like if we can find some success in that, there is something to the system, and there is something in being able to kind of figure out where we're going from this.
Replicability. Close enough.
Yeah, we'll go with it.
For me, this might be weird to some people also, but when you think about it, it's going to make sense. And it's, if you're going to lose, at least look like you're trying.
Yeah.
How many times during a Dino Babers season or a Scott Schaefer season did you see Syracuse go down by 1 or 2 scores and said, "Oh, that's it. They're not coming back"?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in that pit during that pit game last year, it took McCord throwing his 4th interception to be like, well, this is over. But it had to get to that point.
Yeah.
In most Syracuse losing seasons before Fran Brown came along, you knew the game was over in the second quarter. You have to
100%.
show that you are going to be competitive no matter what. At least show up. Because there are too many people that are going to turn on this program if the product on the field at least isn't competitive. When Syracuse was losing in the mid-2010s, the product on the field wasn't competitive. It was bad, like, for a lack of a better term. The football was not of high quality. From what we know, Coach Fran is not going to stand for that. If the football's not going to be of high quality, he's going to fix something, at least from what we know. If you're going to lose, give Fran another 4th and 1, 4th and 9 mantra that he can push to make his team better, because that's what a lot of his team are using this year. They're using 4th and 1, 4th and 9 to push the team and motivate the team.
I like it. I think that actually is fairly related to what I'm looking for here, which is I kind of mentioned it earlier. I feel like Syracuse's biggest challenge and is that when you look at the ACC, again, I'm going to use another phrase that was coined from the Bill Connolly podcast days, but like the ACC is a cul-de-sac. There's just a lot of cutout houses that all kind of look the same and are all kind of interchangeable. And Syracuse, ever since they've joined the ACC, has never been able to join that group. They've either been, oh my gosh, it's the 10-win team that's one game out of the playoff, or oh my gosh, they're one of the worst teams in this conference and they only win one or two conference games a season. Even though this season is presumably going to be difficult for Syracuse, I would like to see us make an effort here to win 3, maybe even 4 conference games, or be in the mix for that, even if we don't end up, pulling the trigger on all of those, so that you can essentially say, like, moving forward, like, look, Syracuse, even in their worst seasons, even when you give them the toughest schedule, even when they don't have a clear tacked on quarterback coming in, even when they're shuffling the offensive line and their best offensive line player went down in the spring with an ACL injury, even when the defensive depth isn't really all there and they're starting a true freshman at corner, this team is still good enough to be one of the mid-tier ACC teams. Like, that goes so far in getting that pipeline of players, in getting in those Nike radars, and in securing those long-term investments, because people want to look at the Syracuse football program the way that we used to look at the Syracuse basketball program and just say, that's a consistent investment. That's a consistent investment of my time. That's a consistent investment of my effort. And to me, that consistency comes from culture. And that obviously is something that we think Fran Brown can deliver. But it's really, we've learned that culture is not delivered in the good seasons. Culture is delivered in the bad seasons. And that was where we have seen multiple coaches fail here before. Yep. And I think that this is going to be Fran Brown's moment to say, this season isn't going to go like last year. What is the culture that I can deliver here when the deck is literally stacked against us?
There is one more thing, and Fran mentioned this multiple times during camp. A lot of coaches have also mentioned this during camp. And as long as this improves, I think everyone here will be happy. And it goes back to a phrase that I initially heard when I first got into Syracuse football and watching it and learning it from other people. Tackle him, you fuck. Like, holy crap, tackle people. And throughout my entirety of following Syracuse football, tackling has been a consistent problem with this program. Even last year, which is a reason why Fran and his coaches wanted to fix tackling.
Yeah.
And
Can
what
confirm.
we've seen,
it's been a problem since I started watching
exactly
Syracuse football.
And I have seen Fran go personally oversee also tackling drills. So there's a lot being talked about mindset as well, about when tackling and what you should be thinking about as well. So if you tackle better, that's already a big improvement as well.
Yeah. I think it's, and with that in mind, talking about this Tennessee game, it's the first of it's a non-conference game. It's arguably the hardest non-conference game we have. And yes, I'm including the game to Notre Dame that we would take in November. I just have no idea what Notre Dame's going to look like in November. We'll wait and see there.
The greatest Stephen Jelly revenge game you've ever seen in your life.
Stay healthy, buddy, and you could have your moment. I'm a little bit more optimistic about that game than this one, if only because week 1, we kind of saw it. I don't know how many of you watched Farm Ogeddon over in Ireland, but that was a real sloppy game at first. Obviously, we won't have the torrential downpours in Atlanta in the Dome Stadium, but I'm expecting this game to be a little bit rough just because of the weather. Not because of the weather, but because it's the first game. There's a lot of new moving parts here. Tennessee, at least on defense, is going to be returning a lot of returning starters. I think their offense is probably going to be a bit clunky as well. My question for you all is like, as you go into this Tennessee game, for me, I just want to see that the offensive line can survive. Like I know we're going to lose. I know that they're going to lose reps. I know that there's going to be sacks. But I would like to just see, like, kind of Christian, to your point, like, let's be competitive about this. Let's not have it be every single snap. There's Tennessee guys living in the backfield. Like, let's see a couple of sustained plays, a couple of sustained drives where it's just we're holding our own. That and it sounds small, but like that will go so far in establishing confidence for me this season. For you, when we go into this Tennessee game, what are you looking for in either a specific player or a specific unit or a specific side of the ball?
We've all had that moment in a Syracuse game where it's the fifth 3 and out, and you're groaning so hard that Steve's dog can hear it. If you can not produce that sound when a 3 and out happens, because it's going to happen, or a short drive happens,
Yeah.
we're great. We're fantastic. You can groan at a short drive. But if it's not exacerbated, we're fantastic, I think. And I think that's what I think a lot of things we're looking for. You're looking for efficiency. You're looking for offensive efficiency. You're looking for many of the problems that we've continuously brought up since we started this pod. Are the running backs getting at least 4 yards a carry instead of stopping at 1? Are the defenders actually finishing tackles and not arm tackling? Is someone edge containing, for God's sake?
No.
I get it. Yeah, sure. Like, can you fix those problems? Can the running backs set up second and third in manageable situations so that Angeli is not feeling the pressure of I've got to now do it all to keep this drive alive? Can the defense flip that on the other side and not allow rushers or receivers to fall forward to gain an extra 3 or 4 yards? Can you get that key stop on 3rd and 4th down? If you can do that more often than not, but you still lose, that's a loss that Syracuse fans will take.
Yeah.
And there you
I don't
go.
know if there's much more to add.
Steve, do you have any? Oh, there we go. I-
Yep, and
Oh,
unfortunately we
bye,
lost
Andy.
Andy. Yep. The thing we did plan, and as Andy usually has internet problems, so we will, if he comes back, we will welcome him back. The one thing we did want to get to at the end of this was football, which we talked about at the beginning of this podcast, and by football, of course, we mean football. Syracuse men's soccer is well underway, as well as women's soccer. Both programs have already dealt with losses that you're like, you probably shouldn't have lost that.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? It's football season.
Yeah, that's the women are 3 games in already.
Yes. For some reason, the women's season starts ridiculously early. And from what we've been told, potentially that it could start even early. The men could start at the same time as the women next year.
Right, which is crazy.
Yeah, that it's in the middle of August, and hey, the soccer programs are starting up.
Yeah, so they started August 17th and have already hit 4 games. So
Yeah, they've had 4 games. They're 3-1.
sorry,
Although
August 15th.
although the one loss is a rather unfortunate one to Niagara.
Yeah, bit of a head scratcher, but
Yeah. And that was a Niagara team with a new head coach as well. So, yeah. This is remember, this is a women's soccer team that needs all the momentum it can get. This is a program that's picked to finish last in the ACC in the coaches poll,
right.
and did not win an ACC game last year.
Or the year before, I don't believe.
I couldn't remember, honestly.
Yeah, 09-1 last year, 2 years ago.
Yep.
So the last conference game they won was in 2022
Yeah.
against Miami.
So definitely not what you want. Women need all the momentum it can build before the grueling stretch uh, that is the ACC conference. Uh, if you looked at the preseason poll, I believe there were 7 or 8 teams that were in the preseason conference coaches poll,
Yep.
and the uh, the women were again picked to finish last. Top 4 teams in the preseason poll for the for the women in the national polls were all ACC programs, which is slightly worrying. And Syracuse both plays Duke and North Carolina to end the season. Duke is the current number 1. North Carolina was the preseason number 1.
Yep. So not great, Bob. Not great.
It might look a little bit better on the men's side, but let's be honest, it might not be that much.
Right. I mean, there's a ton of turnover on the men's side as well. So, yeah, they opened the season with a kind of WTF loss to UConn. First time since like 2009, maybe.
Yes, it was the first time they lost to UConn since 2009.
Yeah. So, not great on that front. And I mean, I don't know. MAC teams usually have a stupid early loss, like what is happening, and then they kind of pull it together. So we'll see how that goes. You know, they squeak by Loyola 1-0 today at noon, and they're they're hosting Penn State on Thursday. So
Indeed.
maybe I'll find a way up there to take a look at that.
Yeah.
But
What I will say is, I mean, based on my analysis of heavily watching and involving that UConn game, UConn is a defensive team. They did the FIFA thing of score on the counterattack and then just hold defensively strong.
yeah,
But the other thing about that UConn game, and you saw it in the way that Syracuse scored on its in the Loyola game, is that it's a team that likes to cross. However, the forward group necessarily isn't a team that is built to receive crosses, which is why their goal against Loyola was scored by a center back off a corner.
right.
The forwards can make the skill wingers can make things happen, especially Shaquille Ming. I love Shaquille Ming, and I think a lot of people who saw Ming last year will agree with that.
Yeah.
But and he can create chances. However, I think the philosophy right now that is being coached by Syracuse men's soccer is a lot of crosses and floated crosses in, and I just don't think a ton of the forwards on Syracuse men's soccer have the ability to be a target forward in order to finish off the crosses with the required headed precision that would be required of that play style.
They don't, and they haven't for years. Mac really loves this style and this build-up, and the team is very good at it. But I can count on one hand how many times we've had a forward that's appropriate to play with this style, like almost exclusively.
Like the only thing I could think of was half of Johannes Peels.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Opoku.
Yeah, and Apoku. But Apoku was horrendously gifted at his feet.
Emil Ekblom actually was solid as a target and served. He was a smaller guy, but he played well with his back to goal. But yeah, there ain't too many that we've seen that are, you know, the Didier Drogba's.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Mac is looking for a Peter Crouch in his next recruiting cycle.
Yep. So, well, let's see if we can see if Crouchy has a son at this point that we can snag.
I mean, it would be very Mac to go plunder an academy for that specific player.
Yeah, I mean, Ming's Bermudan, right?
Yeah, but I think he actually played like in New York in high school.
Did
he? Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's as usual too. You look at that roster, and you know, Mac gets them from everywhere.
Yeah.
So. Georgia, our standard Brampton, Ontario, TFC, and Sigma academies.
Yeah, exactly.
Couple Germans.
Mhm.
You know, Vaughan, Ontario,
Mhm.
Ghana.
If if you switch the crosses to potential like through balls, I think it could be better for Syracuse. Just
Yeah.
because I feel like the forwards right now do have pace, and I think they can get behind a defensive line. Um, but we'll see how that develops as the season goes through.
Right. Yeah.
There's plenty of footy happening up on the hill. Is the moral of the story.
And
It's true.
overseas. We started this program by welcoming everyone to the Church of Tejon Buchanan.
It's true. And if anyone didn't see it in his debut for Villarreal?
Second
Yeah.
game.
Second game. He decided to, throw the ball in the net 3 times. And last time I heard, that's a hat trick.
I believe that's his first career hat trick as well.
It is, and the first Canadian hat trick in Serie A
Not Serie A, La Liga.
or La Liga. Yeah.
I was gonna say.
No,
Unless
I was
remember,
thinking because Buchanan scored the first goal in Serie A.
yeah.
Yeah. Back in the day. Which was only like a couple years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's with Villarreal now, and I believe that it was against Real Oviedo, which is famously the team that just got promoted and is still playing a 40-something-year-old Santi Cazorla in the midfield. Yeah.
Well, didn't he start
What?
his career at Oviedo? I'm pretty sure the reason why.
Okay. That makes
Yeah. It is a homecoming. He was instrumental in their season to get brought up to the top flight, and they have kept him around for this season. I do not know how much he's actually played, but I did see that he at least appeared in the opening game of
I will say
their
Oviedo do
season.
have, from what I heard, also some pretty notable backers. So
Yes. Either way, they're trying. They do not want to go down. And Tejon getting the hat trick is not like going, I was about to make a Manchester United joke, but they actually haven't really looked bad on defense. So you know what? I can't actually even do that.
Fun fact,
West Ham. They look like West Ham.
fun fact: Lenny Euro has not
Sorry, John.
started a Manchester United game in a win against any of the current Premier League squads.
Oh, this is
My club.
It's going to be a fun season.
Are you sure about that?
Well, it's going to be fun for me, but
Did
what?
you know Poku broke his leg?
No.
Ooh, I did not know that. Oh, that's unfortunate.
Return unknown. Well, I was looking. I'm like, I don't see anything on the Levuin site on him at all. And then he wasn't listed on their roster, and I'm like, what happened? So Transfer Market, I pulled up. He's back in Leicester with a busted leg.
Oh.
Well, that sounds like I'm going to have to buy Football Manager 26 to fix that problem.
Don't threaten him with a good time.
We also should not threaten anybody else with a good time and let them go on with whatever it is that they're doing instead of listening to us talk about all the footies at Syracuse. Thank you again to everybody who tuned into this week's edition of Disloyal Idiots on the Fan First Sports Network. We really appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for being patient with us as we work through a new streaming platform and I deal with some technical issues. I had some issues with the uploading of the last episode. So again, thank you for continuing to stick with us as we make some transitions on our end. Thank you to our sister site, newsmagician.com, for again continuing to support us. You're going to see content by Christian up there all the time. I may or may not be writing something that's about to pop on Monday, so have to go finish that after this. Should be some fun jokes and garbage content over there.
The return of the Pregler?
When you are between gigs, you suddenly have a lot of free time, and it opens the door for lots of fun opportunities. But yes, thank you to everybody who tuned in. Make sure that you like and subscribe on Twitch. Again, big for us as we continue to grow over there. And make sure that you follow this podcast, help us grow the Orange Empire. Also, Christian reminded me of this before the show. Follow the Nunes Magician social channels. We are trying to do a little bit of clipping potentially in the future, take some of this content and put it elsewhere. No promises here, but we're going to try some things this season. It's going to be a little bit different. We've got some youths helping out behind the scenes now. So, we might be able to do some things.
The fact that I'm approaching Steve age where that's going to have to start becoming part of my lexicon.
Look, man, I still don't have TikTok, so I am officially an old in that regard.
If I have TikTok, but I'm not following anybody, what does that make me?
You're right on the cusp. You're
Oh,
right on the
God.
cusp. So much fun. But yeah, thanks everybody. This is the longest outro in the world, but it's lots of fun because we're still getting into podcast shape here. But like Fran and everybody else, we got to be ready for week 1, which is here now. Woohoo!
Hey, before we do that, this is the last time we're going to talk. Before it, do we have any predictions?
Syracuse 21, Tennessee 35.
Okay. I was going to go Cuse like 17-ish and Tennessee 28, but
That's where I was
think-
about to go. I was going to go Syracuse 16, Tennessee 31.
yeah, like we're all in kind of that same ballpark of, Cuse probably keeps it close through a couple, and then Tennessee ends up pulling away type thing.
And as Andy
Yeah.
mentioned, I just think it's the defense of Tennessee that's just going to eventually overwhelm Syracuse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Syracuse's recipe for this game is start fast and don't look back.
Very
But
fast and pray. Sold.
just like our soccer team sometimes. Anyways, on that note, thanks everybody. Go Orange!
Go
Orange.